Good evening. We will be now beginning our presentation. Thank you for your patience. We do have our applicants team almost here, but we will move ahead because we do want to be mindful of your time. So I'm just going to go right ahead and discuss what the purpose of today's meeting is, which is to outline the planning proposal and process and give you an opportunity to comment and ask questions about this rezoning application at 1 and 5 Kenton. Notes will be taken and the issues raised will be summarized and included in staff's final report. So we just wanted to say thank you very much for carving time in your evening schedule to join us today. I wanted to introduce everyone who is a part of this panel and is here to hear your views and answer your questions. Councillor Fillion wanted to be here, however, he is ill with West Nile, so he is unable to attend, regrettably, but he has sent Catherine LeBlanc Miller, who's his executive assistant, to be here on his behalf. I am Jenny Choi. I'm the community planner that will be reviewing this application, and with me I have Jack Krubnik, who's the urban designer, Humayun Harifarouche, who is the transportation planner. I also have Mark, as well as Stephen, who has helped moderating and hosting this meeting and will help with having your questions and comments answered in queue. With me also is the applicant's team, Janice Robinson, who is acting on behalf of the owner. She is from Goldberg Group. We've got Bob Green, the architect, Mike Walters, traffic consultant, who is with us as well, and Avi Gottlieb, who is the owner of the site. So I will begin the meeting by making a presentation, and following my presentation will be a presentation by Janice Robinson, and she will in detail describe what the proposal looks like and the functions of the proposal. And after our presentation, we will then have a facilitated discussion, and that is the time when you can ask your questions or provide us any comments or feedback on the proposal. Just some code of conduct that we expect from this virtual community consultation is to be mindful of everyone's time and to be efficient. If you could be brief and limit yourself to one question or comment at a time, and if possible, if you can address your question to a specific person. And at the end of the meeting, we will answer your questions or comments through the raised hand feature, which you will find at the bottom of your screen, either through the floating toolbar with the 3 dots or through the participants view option. And there you click and you will see the raised hand feature. I will show it to you in detail later on. And we want to be respectful we want to be open-minded. We want to be able to listen to everybody respectfully. City of Toronto is an exclusive public organization. Any racist or hateful comments or questions will not be tolerated. So this meeting is being recorded, and so we will be posting online this meeting for future viewing. Before I begin my formal presentation, I'd like to acknowledge the land that we are on. Toronto, now known as Toronto, is under Treaty Number 13 and is home to many Indigenous nations from across Turtle Island, including the Inuit and the Métis. It is a traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit River First Nations. We are all treaty people. Many of us have come here as settlers, immigrants, newcomers in this generation or generations past. I'd like to also acknowledge those who came here involuntarily, particularly as a result of the transatlantic slave trade, and so I honor and pay tribute to the ancestors of African origin and descent. Okay, so we'll just begin with the site context of the proposal. Here is the existing residential care facility that houses Alzheimer's patients. This is an area of the site, and if you see in red here, you see the subject site. Right abutting to the south is the Toronto Hydro Corridor, and you've also got on Bathurst Street, you've got some apartment buildings and also a low-rise residential subdivision. Just on Kenton and north of there, you've got both single-family detached houses fronting onto Kenton, and going more north, you'll see that that subdivision continues with some townhouses and some commercial uses abutting Bathurst Street. So if you go across on the west side of Bathurst, more to the north, you'll see that number 12. That is part of an apartment building subdivision that you access from Bathurst Street. You also have the cemetery, Beth Memorial Park. Then you've got the fire station, the soccer fields with the parking lot in front of it, and a community center closer to Finch. So as you can see, there is a variety of uses that we are seeing here on Bathurst, which is a major street, and that's what we normally like to see on major streets, a mix of uses. And that's just taking a west view across Bathurst from the subject site, and here is a view of Kenton Drive looking into the neighborhood. So when we do review a planning application, there are a number of legislation that we are required to assess against the development. They are a hierarchy of planning legislation. The provincial policy statement and the places of grow are provincial documents. All city council decisions must be consistent with these policies, and the provincial policy documents, they support each other, and they highlight some of the provincial policy interests that we need to have regard for in our decisions. So making efficient use of land and infrastructure to reduce sprawl, optimizing infrastructure and investment, and complete communities is a principle that is part of the growth plan that supports mixed-use neighborhoods that offer and support opportunities for people of all ages and ability to conveniently access most of the necessities for daily living, including a full range of housing. So a lot of the policies have been updated to include more intensification near transit areas, as well as increasing the supply and range of housing that we are seeing today. The City of Toronto also has a land use policies. You're looking here at the land use map 16. The subject site is designated neighborhoods, and with neighborhoods, there are land use policies that must be applied to the development. Abutting immediately to the south, you have the Hydro Corridor, which also has policies to protect the transmission of energy and the movement of people and information. So we refer to these policies when we assess the development. The official plan identifies all major streets on this map, map 3, and Bathurst Street is a major street with right-of-way width of 36 meters, or a planned right-of-way width of 36 meters. So the neighborhood policies support local institutions. They are important uses that support residents and area residents. They include schools, places of worship, community centers, private home daycares, seniors, nursing homes, and long-term care facilities. Neighborhoods are physically stable areas, and they permit low-scale buildings or residential uses and other institutional uses that are below 4 stories. This site has already an existing development, and the infill development policies apply because the lot size and configuration and orientation is different than the rest of the lots in the area. And when development is permitted through these policies, we must have regard for the heights and massing. They need to be compatible with the existing permissions that the existing residential development or properties have. So we have to look at transitions, setbacks, just to mitigate some of the privacy and sunlight impacts. We also have housing policies that also support a full range of housing in terms of form, tenure, and affordability across the city and within neighborhood. A full range of housing includes ownership and rental housing, shared living housing, supporting housing, emergency and transitional housing for homeless people and at-risk groups, housing that meets the needs of people with physical disabilities, and housing that makes more efficient use of the existing housing stock. Like I mentioned before, the utility corridor also has policies that protect, screen, and support the main and local functions of the utility corridor. And also, we've got the zoning bylaw. Right now, you are looking at 1 Kenton Drive, and the yellow is what is a neighborhood zoning designation, and then you've got the gray that has the utility zoning designation, and you've got the open space across the street, and you've got additional apartment permissions along the south of the utility corridor. You will see here, this is the former zoning bylaw that applies here, as well as a citywide zoning bylaw that I just showed you, 569213. The former, they mirror a lot of each other's permissions. So the former North York zoning bylaw 7625 has identified that 1 Kenton Drive already has a site-specific zoning approval for the existing care facility. And so now the zoning permissions are being sought for 5 Kenton Drive. Here I've just identified where the zoning permissions are required. So for 5 Kenton Drive, which is the newly acquired lot, the maximum height permitted on that site is 2 stories and 10 meters in height. The proposal is asking for 14.4 meters in height, and it's an addition to the existing 4-story building. The permission for 1 Kenton Drive is already there for the residential care facility. So the additional permission is required for 5 Kenton Drive, because although the residential care facility is permitted, there is a special condition that says that it's only permitted if it's abutting a major street. So 5 Kenton Drive is not abutting a major street, but it will be added to the existing building that abuts the major street. So also the parking permissions for 1 Kenton Drive is for 12 parking spaces and 0 loading spaces. For for together the 1 and 5 Kenton Drive, they are seeking an expanded parking area to accommodate 19 spaces and 1 loading area. And they are also seeking an increase in gross floor area to 3,459 square meters. Their lot coverage currently is 38 for 1 Kenton Drive, and for the 5 Kenton Drive, the lot coverage is 30%. The combined lot coverage for 1 and 5 Kenton Drive through this proposal will be for 40.6% lot coverage. So that, I hope, explains where specifically the zoning increases are being specifically requested for. So I will just briefly go over some of the applicant's proposal. So here we're looking at the north elevation of the existing facility. And on the right, we see the west elevation of the existing facility that fronts Bathurst Street. Just to give you some context of the area. And this view is looking from the residential area outward to the west. And you can see the 4-story addition at the rear of it. We've got here the south elevation, which abuts the hydro corridor. And this is where you can see the parking area as well as that driveway access that comes right off Bathurst. So we are looking at the proposed site plan. There was a slight revisions, and I'll have the applicant maybe speak to that. This is the original site plan proposal, and what you see in the gray area is the addition. You can see that it goes from 4 to 2 to 1 story. You've got on Kenton, you've got a 4-meter front yard setback. You've got some cantilevering happening on the upper floors. And you've got about 8.69 setback from the rear property line. And you will also see that there is a landscape strip that is abutting the east property line with I think when the applicant provides the landscape proposal, it'll be much easier to see. The proposal will show you that it is supporting a mix of deciduous and coniferous trees along that property line. And you will also see that the existing driveway access will be maintained, and that there have been some parking spaces added to the existing parking area. We've got already some nice tree planting happening on Kenton, and we've got some trees also fronting Bathurst Street, and you maintain the same entrance that can be accessed from the public sidewalk directly from Kenton, as well as Bathurst, which is what we like to see. We like direct access, and there is some accessibility access as well through a ramp on the side on Kenton, which is also very nice to see that their accessibility is easier for those who may not be able to, who need a little bit more assistance in reaching the ground floor. So this is what has been shown in my preliminary report. Just shows you a massing of some of the views. So on the left, you're looking, pretty much at the southeast view, and the right, you're looking at a kind of a west view, which is the rear elevation. So I think with that, I will just summarize kind of where we're at right now. The applicant was submitted back in December 30th, 2019. The proposal was circulated to the city divisions. A preliminary report was approved at North York Community Council, which directed City Planning to have this community consultation meeting. And there has been a number of application material that have been submitted that supports the proposal. Some of them being transportation impact study, an archaeological assessment, tree preservation plan, Toronto Green Standards, stormwater management, magnetic field management plan. We've got landscape plans, lighting plans, civil and utility plans. And so with all this, with all these submissions, planning staff and divisional staff review all the material and ensure that that it is in accordance with city standards and city policy. I will stop right there, and I think what I will do is I will have the applicant proceed with their proposal, and I can wrap up by telling you what the next step is, if you like. We are right now at the community consultation stage. After today, we will review all the notes and the comments made by the members of the public, and we will then provide our comments to the applicant, and they have the opportunity to respond to your comments today, also to respond to city concerns or issues. And once they submit revisions, we will then circulate again to divisions and to the city divisions. And once we are at the stage where we can report out and make a recommendation to North York Community Council, we will do so at a public meeting at the Community Council stage. That's when public notice will be delivered to everybody to advise them that they have an opportunity to speak before Community Council before they make their decision. And once it's dealt with there, it goes on to City Council for their approval. And there is an opportunity once City Council has decided on their decision for this planning application for any appeals by members of the public or the applicant to appeal the decision of City Council. So that's that. And I do encourage you to, some of you have already been on this site, it's the application center. This gives you a lot of information. This is how it looks like. If you go to the application center, you can click in a street address, Kenton. It will show you that there is an application. It will also give you a timeline of where the application is in the process. And you can also view any of the supporting documents and submissions that the applicant has provided if you are interested in learning about some more details or revisions to certain reports. But I do encourage you to be, to get familiar with this, because it is a great resource, especially when you would like to follow up on a specific item that is important to you. So that concludes my meeting or my presentation. And if Janice, you'd like to go ahead with your presentation.
I'm trying to unmute. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, and to get to my materials, do I press? I'm trying to figure out how to get to my materials.
I will be the presenter for you, so you can just tell me when to do next slide.
Okay, I thought I was going to be able to do scroll up and scroll down on the side on the left side.
Here, let me try that one more time.
Because we practiced that, so.
There we go. Now you can try.
Let's see. Okay, it's working.
Perfect.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the community consultation meeting for 1 and 5 Kenton Drive. As Jenny mentioned, my name is Janice Robinson. I'm a planning consultant at Goldberg Group. And also in attendance is the owner, Avi Gottlieb, Bob Green, the architect, and Mike Walters, the traffic consultant. We're here tonight to get your comments on the application, feedback on the proposed development, and of course, answer questions you may have. The application was submitted in December of 2019. I'm going to be presenting to you the revised plans that were submitted on June 23rd. And everything that you're going to see tonight can be viewed on the city's application information center. This shows the location of the property. For those little arrows. Anyway. Oops. Sorry. There was a thing for an arrow, but I don't see it. Maybe it's here. No. Okay. We practice the technology, but so. Okay, next. So figure 1 shows the location of the property. It's in the existing residential care facility on the property known as 1 Kenton Place. It's a privately operated retirement residence that provides specialty care for people living with dementia. And 5 Kenton Drive has been purchased to allow for the expansion of the facility to serve the increasing needs of the community for this type of care. This is an air photo of the area. You already saw that, but this one shows a little bit more with the apartments to the north along Bathurst Street, but we already saw an air photo. This is the survey of the property, and it just shows the location of the existing building and the distance currently from the east side of the building to 5 Kenton Drive is 8.44 meters. And I'm just pointing that out because later we'll be seeing what the setback is going to be once the expansion happens. And it's actually a little bit more than that. Here's the a 3D air photo of the property further up close. And it shows the terracing of the building. It's 4 stories in height, and then it terraces down to 2 stories and down to 1 story. And that pattern of built form is being replicated in the proposed development. It also shows the parking lot at the rear, which is accessed from Bathurst Street, and that's going to be maintained as well. Here's some more photographs of the neighborhood, but in and around the property, but we've already looked at photographs, so I'm not going to show more. This is the official plan mapping. The property is in the neighborhood's land use designation, and that designation does permit low-scale local institutional uses that are no higher than 4 stories. So 4 stories is the maximum permitted in the neighborhood's designation, and that's what the existing facility is. These are the zoning maps in 569-2013. As Jenny mentioned, the 5 Kenton Drive has to be rezoned to permit the proposed development in both 569-2013 and in bylaw 7625, which is the bylaw of the former city of North York. So here's the colored copy of the site plan. So it shows the expansion area right here. It shows the landscaped areas in green. Everything that's on the existing property is being maintained. All of the landscaping, the street trees, there'll be more street trees planted along Kenton Drive. There'll be more landscaping in front. There's a side deck terrace off of the main floor on the east side, similar to what exists. The existing facility now is 44 units, and the proposal is to add 29 units for a total of 73. This is a very high quality facility. It's not a long-term care home, but a specialized retirement residence that provides very personalized care with a lot of respect and dignity for residents, all who have Alzheimer's and dementia. So the building, it'll be the same height as the existing building, 4 stories. The entrance to Bathurst Street will be maintained. The parking area at the back has 19 parking spaces, and there's a loading space right here. Something that there isn't a loading space now on the property, so that's something that's improved. And the setback is 8.69 meters, which is slightly more than the current setback. The main entrance at the front will be maintained. The staff entrance at the back will be maintained as well. And the landscaping will be a combination of shade trees to be planted here on the private property, more shade trees along the boulevard, and then there's planting all the way down the side of the property, and another shade tree here, and a shade tree in the parking area. This is the site statistics showing the gross floor area, unit count, parking, and the size of each floor. This is the ground floor plan showing the layout of the ground floor. This is the second floor plan. And notice when we get to the third floor plan how it's stepped back. And the fourth floor plan is stepped back again. So here's the elevation looking at the property from Kenton Drive. And what it shows is the stepping down, which is exactly like what you have on the same height, massing, and transition to the neighborhood as the existing facility has. It's being completely replicated. The height is exactly the same as the existing facility. It also shows that the building is entirely within the 45-degree angular plane, and that's a line drawn at 45 degrees from the property line up. And what that is, it's a design guideline that the city uses for achieving appropriate building massing and transition between uses. And the current proposal meets that 45-degree angular plane, and so does this one. So the entire building is below that 45-degree angular plane. This is the south elevation, also showing the 45-degree angular plane. This is the east elevation, so that would be looking at the side of the building from the direction of Kenton. This is a section drawing, and the last one is the rendering of the building, of what it will look like when built. So that concludes my presentation. I'll be pleased to answer any questions you may have. Go back over any slides if you want to look at anything again. Thank you.
Okay. We can now go to the facility discussion. I'm hearing a bit of echo. Can you hear me okay?
There's a bit of an echo.
Okay. So I wanted to bring up this, if there is anybody who has any comments or questions, this is the time to raise your hands and ask that question. And Mark will be calling your name. He will unmute you, and then he will mute you when you're finished your comment or question.
We have a question in the chat from Mel Tetzenberg. She writes, financial impact on city is none. What about financial impact on immediate residents?
Okay, so I will answer that question. So when we look at development, we've got policies for land use planning that assesses the development. We don't, when we say there is no financial impact, that is part of the report that indicates that there's no impact to the city. When we talk about, I am assuming that you're talking about impact, financial impact to you as a resident, and We are here to assess to make sure that development is compatible, that it's that we're mitigating against privacy and for sunlight, and to ensure that it is compatible with area residents. However, we do not assess the financial impacts. That is not part of this review. We don't. We do. You know, part of neighborhood policies is to expect that there will be some changes in neighborhoods, that they will be gradual and slow, but that they will be respectful of the existing resident and existing residential neighborhood. So I hope that answers your question.
We have a question from Marta Roos. Marta Roos, please direct your question to one of the panelists. Marta Roos, you are now unmuted.
Hi there. I'm actually here on behalf of my mom, who lives at 7 Kenton. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So obviously, this happening right next door is presenting quite a few questions and issues. Mel, who's our neighbor, just addressed one of them, so that's kind of disappointing to hear that financially, you know, you guys don't seem to care what's going to happen to our property value. There has been a lot of issues with parking on the street, and apparently there is, what, Mom? There's supposed to be no parking on the street or on the south side?
On the south side, no parking.
So right now, as it stands, there is a lot of parking happening on the south side of the street where there shouldn't be parking. We're very worried about construction, what's going to happen during construction, how bad is parking going to be, how are my 70-something-year-old parents going to be able to get in and out of their driveway, that type of issue. So that's one question, if you want to address that.
Sure, I will answer that in terms of the construction issue about any kinds of concerns about construction activity and how it impact abutting neighbors such as yourself. You're at 7 Kenton, which is
Right next door.
Yes. So part of the site plan process, which is required for a rezoning application, is that we plan for all of the technical and urban design features of this proposal. One being that a construction mitigation plan is submitted when and before construction begins, and that is reviewed by staff, and this construction mitigation plan ensures that developers are thinking about their construction and how it's going to be carried out, and to ensure that it does not impact neighbors in any obstructive or negative manner. So the site plan process it provides a process for us to plan for that, and although the site plan application has not been submitted yet, it is required.
Okay, so apparently there are also a lot of, I don't know, people visiting residents where there's just not enough parking at the facility as it stands, and a lot of street parking is happening. So that's obviously a concern of ours. Also, we're wondering about damages to my mom's house, or, obviously the developer is going to ensure that any damages that occur will be taken care of. And as far as privacy and light, how that's going to affect my mother's beautiful garden, those kinds of things are concerning.
Okay, so I think that what we can do is we can take the construction, if there's anybody who on the applicant's team that want to respond to, if they can, about any construction plans that would safeguard any impacts on 7 Kenton.
Well, we haven't done the construction management plan yet. But at that time, there would be, arrangements made, figure out where the construction traffic would park. So it just hasn't been done yet. But I do know that all of the construction traffic would have to enter and exit the site from Bathurst Street.
Okay.
If that would have to be done. I don't expect that there will be damage to your property, to the property at 7 Kenton, your mother's property. And with respect to the privacy and light, the building is not going to be at the back of the property next to the rear yard. There's a garage at the back, actually. I didn't point that out, but there's a garage at the back of your mother's property. And that, there won't be any change really to that. And that 45-degree angular plane that I was pointing out, that is for sunlight and privacy. So.
Right. So, and again, where are you planning on putting the loading dock?
Oh, it's at the back. It's not even at the side. It's at the back.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's at the back, in the middle of the back.
Mm-hmm. And is this building, once it's constructed, is it going to remain an Alzheimer's care facility?
Yes.
Okay.
It's literally just an expansion. What you see there now, it's going to be the same thing, just a little bit bigger, extending onto one more residential lot.
Now, as a city planner, do you know like how this is going to affect their property value? I know that that's not really a concern here, according to the city. It's obviously a concern of ours. Do you have any idea what that does to the property value?
It isn't something that ever gets assessed in situations like this. And, it's just, I think it would be impossible to do so. I know that kind of thing is often said with respect to affordable housing projects, which isn't this, but just as an example, and people saying that, their property values are going to be affected negatively, and I've seen studies that have said that's not the case. So there hasn't been a study done, and it's pretty much impossible to know. But what you see, right, the relationship of the existing facility that you see now to 5 Kenton Drive, that's what it will be.
Right.
So it's a pretty quiet use.
Okay. My mom's trying to figure what.
The existing parking spaces will not be able to service the additional proposed rooms.
So is this related to the transportation question?
I guess this is related. We're going back to parking on the street because my mom seems to think that there won't be enough parking spaces to accommodate the additional rooms. So people, again, will be parking on the street, making coming in and out of her driveway kind of difficult.
Well, the parking is being increased proportional to the expansion of the facility.
Okay.
So the parking ratio of 0.25 spaces per room is going to be, the existing parking ratio, is the parking ratio that's proposed for the total number of rooms.
Right. And so I'm seeing a fence that is beside 5 Kenton. So is that just essentially you're going to put a fence there, add some trees and landscaping, and sort of give us some privacy?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And in fact, when the time comes, we can contact you to show you the fence details and.
And how many trees how many trees did you propose?
Well, there's going to be, go back to that colored site plan. Let me just see if I can. Can the person who's controlling this go back to my presentation so I can show the colored site plan that I have? Because it shows the trees. Right.
Right. Oh, okay.
Oh, here we go. There it is. So there's 2 new trees along the boulevard, 3 new trees here, new tree there. The garage on your mother's property, I'm just going to go back to the...
Yeah, for some reason I can't see the entire, like, I don't know. Oh, maybe if I close this. Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
You see it now?
Yeah.
And see that shading there? That's the garage at the back of your mom's property, right there.
Right. Yeah.
There's her house, and their driveway is beside 5 Kenton Drive. The driveway's right there, right? And here's the garage, and the garage extends back. So there'll be landscaping all the way down the side of the property.
Okay. I got it. Yeah. All right.
And here's the loading space over here. Right. I don't know if you can see my arrow.
Can't.
There's a big X at the back.
Okay.
Beside the brown, that's where the loading space is.
Oh, I see it. I see it. Okay. All right. Okay. I think that's it for questions from us.
So if you send in your email address with comments, then, when we get to the point of finalizing the site plan, I could share with you details of it if you'd like.
That would be great. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, if there isn't any more questions.
We have one more question in the chat from Mel Kessenberg. We have so many retirement facilities and group homes in the area already. What justifies adding more? To what extent can this continue?
Well, there's a lot of demand for this type of use. This is people with Alzheimer's and dementia, and there's just a lot of need for this kind of use. The facility has been full since day one, and there's more people that would like to go into it. There's a lot of facilities of a variety of ranges of qualities and types of facilities. There's long-term care homes that are much different than this. This is a very specialized type of use, and it's a very high-end. It's pretty expensive to live there. I know that for sure. And there's no really comparison between something like that and something like this facility and a group home, for example. I mean, I'm not saying anything negative about a group home, but there's a huge difference between the two. I mean, the people who live in these facilities, in this facility, there's just not an impact on the neighborhood whatsoever from people who live in a facility like this. People with dementia, they literally, it's they're inside, and it's generally towards the end of their life. I have a lot of experience with that. My mother had Alzheimer's. So it's just not the same as some of those other facilities, and it's not big. It's not, there's some pretty large facilities. It's not, even though it's being expanded, it's still only covering 3 residential lots.
Does that sufficiently answer your question, Mel? I would assume so, since he's written in the question and answer. So is there any more comments or questions from the public? Okay, well, there's still additional opportunities to provide me with comments or feedback. You can email them to me at my email address provided here for you, jenny.choi@toronto.ca. You can also call me at 416-395-0108 anytime following this meeting, and I'll be happy to respond to any of your concerns or questions. But if we don't have any more questions, I'd like to thank the panel, the applicant, as well as city staff for attending today's meeting. I also want to, on behalf of the Councillor John Fillion and his staff and the city and the panelists, wanted to thank you for joining us today and participating in today's community consultation meeting. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to let me know. So I'd like to say good night and
actually
keep well.
Sorry, Jenny.
Yeah.
Sorry, just on behalf of the councillor's office, I just wanted to make clear to the residents that the councillor's office is also involved in the site plan process and would be happy to work with the residents if they have any concerns. It looks like the applicant is very conscious of their responsibility in that regard, but the councillor's office is happy to participate. And with respect to traffic and parking issues, those matters can also be reported to our office if there are current problems or if they occur in the future as a result of this construction. We're happy to support the residents in addressing those concerns. Thank you.
Okay, and if there is no any comments from the panelists, that will conclude today's meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.